Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. We're coming to you live and direct from our News First studios here in Colombo. I'm Charlotte Benedict and I'm here with my co-anchor, Mariam Gunujaya. Good evening, Mariam.
Very good evening, Charlotte, and a very good evening to all our viewers. Before we head on to our stories in detail, let's take a look at our headlines for this evening.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Sri Lanka dumps Indian-made anesthetics after deaths in hospitals. Amarikirti Attakorala murder case examination begins. 37 people indicted. Attempts being made to pass the proposed legislation on broadcast regulation.
නියාමනය නොකරපු නායකයා ගෙදර යවුණා. දැන් නියාමනය වෙන්න ලෑස්ති වෙන්න කියන මාර්ගයේ පණිවිඩය අපි මාධ්‍ය ආයතන වලට බොහොම කාරුණිකව දැනුම් දෙන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
රජය ගෙන යන විධිමත් ද්වේෂ සහගත මාධ්‍ය මර්ධන වැඩපිළිවෙල අනිවාර්යයෙන් අද ජිනීවා නගරයේ ආරම්භ වන මානව හිමිකම් කවුන්සලයේ 53 වන සැසිවාරයේ අවධානය යොමු වෙනවා.
Arrest warrant issued for Vimal Veeravansa, who failed to appear in court. Indian naval submarine Vajir, the latest indigenous Kalvari-class submarine of the Indian Navy at the Colombo port. Sri Lanka records a resounding 175-run win over UAE in their first ICC Cricket World Cup qualifier in Bulawayo.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
On to your lead story this evening. Sri Lanka's National Medicine Regulatory Authority says that the Indian manufactured anesthetic bupivacaine will no longer be used in the country.
Now, this decision was taken according to the NMRA following reports of 2 deaths that took place after the Indian manufactured anesthetic was administered.
A.G. Karunavati, the principal of the Mausawa Primary School in Kandy, was subject to hernia surgery on the 31st of March. She was admitted to the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital on the 30th of March. She underwent the surgery, hoping that she would be discharged 2 days later. However, she was later admitted to the intensive care unit of the hospital. A.G. Karunavati passed away on the 15th of June while being treated at the ICU of the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital.
She was taken to the operating theatre in the afternoon on the 31st. When I visited her later that evening, I was told that she was admitted to the ICU after developing complications. She was in the ICU for 47 days and they said she experienced an allergy. She was doing very well and she passed away after this. My concerns arose when a woman who underwent a cesarean section delivery also passed away in the same ward 4 days after my mother's surgery. They spoke to the hospital director as well. Thereafter, information came out claiming that issues with the medicine led to the death.
The director of the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital, Dr. Arjuna Tilakaratna, told News First that after the anesthetic was administered to A.G. Karunavati, she continued to receive treatment in the ICU of the hospital. He confirmed that a woman who underwent a cesarean section delivery also died after being administered with the same anesthetic.
No one is going to be held accountable and we suffer the loss. We urge that future steps be taken with responsibility.
The Association of Health Professionals revealed that the anesthetic was imported to Sri Lanka with NMRA approval.
The second death caused by this medicine was reported. The Health Ministry confirmed that it was caused by a complication. This medicine was released and allowed to be used in practice based on the NMRA approval and with proper registration.
The Society of Government Pharmacists said the medicine in question was imported to Sri Lanka by using a legal provision that was introduced during the COVID-19 pandemic.
How did this anesthetic, bupivacaine, enter Sri Lanka? This was imported using a clause in the way of registration for emergency purchasing that was introduced during the pandemic. So in that process, there is no quality check. Most of these can enter illegally without being subject to the evaluation or committee scrutiny. Pharmacists are also not aware. Therefore, most of these medicines are distributed in the country. The executive officer, the health minister, visited these manufacturers. So given the situation, it is possible for such medicines to enter the country without any registration.
Earlier, several patients who underwent eye surgery at the National Eye Hospital and Noor General Hospital experienced complications after they were given the Indian-made prednisolone eye drops. The Health Ministry appointed a special committee to probe the reports of several patients dying after using the medicines, while others developed complications. The National Medicine Regulatory Authority on Monday announced that the anesthetic that was used at the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital, where 2 patients died, was removed and will no longer be in use.
According to the medical ordinance, if the Health Ministry of the Health Minister makes a request on urgency, we can import medicines without registration. The bupivacaine medicine and the eye drops given at Noor and the Colombo National Hospital were registered. A registered medicine and an unregistered medicine have encountered issues. When the Indian credit line was offered, one condition was that we must make purchases from Indian firms. We selected some products and some were not even registered. At that time, we had to give approval since it was under the Indian credit line.
Sri Lanka's health system, which operates on taxpayers' money and is designed to protect the lives of the people, is now doing the complete opposite by endangering their lives. The government is now attempting to silence the electronic media that exposes such events. The government has now proposed that electronic media be regulated through a commission nominated by the President. Provisions are included in the proposal to revoke media licenses, arrest journalists and impose fines on them. The parliamentarians of the ruling party are making greater attempts to pass this bill in Parliament.
Who sent the ruler home who did not regulate the media? Did we do it or did you do it? It was media who guided people to the roads to set fire to the houses. Some media institutions are not to be seen here, but when the houses were burnt, they were holding their mics and broadcasting everything live. The Prime Minister's residence was set on fire by a media institution. Can anybody deny this? If you all send the leader who couldn't regulate media home, we would like to pass the message to the media that we are taking the necessary actions to regulate the media now.
The former Minister of Foreign Affairs G.L. Peiris views media regulation as an act of tarnishing the reputation of Sri Lanka internationally.
Several international criticisms harm the reputation of Sri Lanka, especially the human rights violations. Now that the situation is worsening because of certain acts of the government to suppress the media, the 53rd session of the Human Rights Council commenced today in Geneva, and this will be directed to their attention. We can't avoid it. It will leave a black mark on the reputation of Sri Lanka on all international platforms. It is clear that the government is trying to bring out the Broadcasting Regulatory Commission Act to crack down on media freedom. The ministers of the government are constantly stressing out that this is not an act and it is just a series of proposals. It is not the truth. Here is the act. They have already drafted this act.
The Medical and Civil Rights Professional Association commented on media suppression.
The rulers who cannot maintain free health care in the country are also doing the same to free education. The rulers have failed to solve the issues. When we offer practical solutions to the issues, they try to control what we say because they are aware that they would lose the commissions they obtain. A few state officials and politicians are trying to operate this web of corruption, and when the media speaks against it and speaks of the truth, they are trying to suppress the media.
The People's Tomorrow movement also commented on the proposed Broadcasting Regulatory Commission.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මතක තියාගන්න ඕන අංක 1ට. එයා ඔය මොන පම්පෝරි ගෙහුවත්
No matter what Ranil Wickremesinghe has to say, he is here on a temporary basis. If he has a mandate, he needs to prove it. Not by imposing these laws, the people will eventually suffer. One can introduce legislation to cover up political incompetence. However, that will impact the future.
දුර්වලතා වහගන්න අනපනත් ගේන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඒවා අනාගතයටත් මේ රටට බලපෑම් ඇති කරනවා.
මේ කරන්න හදන්නේ ආණ්ඩුව විසින් ජනතාව තොරතුරු දැන ගැනීම
The government is trying to regulate the flow of information to the people. No matter how you say, you will be exposed. How can you create an independent commission with officials who want benefits? The Broadcasting Regulatory Commission Act is a way of suppressing the right to information.
මේ ගහන්නේ විකාශනාධිකාරී පනත හරහා මිනිස්සුන්ට තොරතුරු දැන ගැනීමට තියෙන අයිතියට.
Members of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna expressed two different positions regarding the country's economy at a constituency meeting held over the weekend.
The Podujana Peramuna is currently conducting a series of constituency meetings. Two of those meetings that were held yesterday were headed by MP Mahindananda Alutgamage and Ministers Prasanna Ranatunga and Kanchana Wijesekara. While one meeting was held in Navalapitiya, the other was held in Gampola.
In another 2 or 3 months, you will be able to see the prices of goods being reduced significantly. We will restart the development program. Due to this, we as the Podujana Peramuna decided to support the President as a party to achieve this goal. When watching the television in the night, you will be able to see various people expressing their opinions. No matter what they say, we will not let what happened to Gotabaya Rajapaksa happen to Ranil Wickremesinghe. The President has managed to save our country from its disunity and our country from the economic crisis it was facing a year ago. There is no one else who criticized Ranil Wickremesinghe more than I did, as we value a leader who cares more about the country than the political party, as we represent the country more than we represent our party. We have decided to support a leader who can take on challenges, save the country from the economic crisis and build a bright future.
Meanwhile, another series of constituency meetings were held with the attendance of MP Namal Rajapaksa and General Secretary of the SLPP, Attorney Sagara Karyavasam. While Attorney Sagara Karyavasam attended the meeting held in Harispattuwa, MP Namal Rajapaksa attended the meeting held in Ahaliyagoda.
Currently, President Ranil Wickremesinghe, the cabinet and members of the government are attempting to improve the country's economy. However, we as a party believe that the country's rural economy needs to be strengthened. Rural entrepreneurs need to be supported. We should help them grow. One cannot run a small business after paying 30% of bank interest and 30% taxes. The construction industry needs to be given a boost. The government needs to formulate policies and take the necessary decisions. Factories are being shut down. We do not see anyone getting involved to stop this. Give a boost to these factories that are being shut down. If we cannot attract new investors to the country, we should at least try to protect the existing factories. Policy decisions need to change. When 30% is taxed on a product sent from abroad, that industrial businessmen will not come to our country. The problem is not about paying the taxes. The tax that needs to be paid should be a fair one. If taxes are imposed in an unfair manner, they will result in the country's economy contracting. The economy cannot run in this manner. In governments in the country, there are some people who are ministers in every single government. I'm not even joking. They seem to be lucky all the time. That may not be the case. That may not be our case. That's why we are like this. Those people put absolutely no effort to form the government, do not make any sacrifices, but they get all the titles and perks. We get nothing of that sort. We admit that we went wrong when trying to form a government last time. But in the next election, we must say that the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna is a party that will set records.
The General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Sagara Karyavasam, attended the SLPP media briefing on Monday.
පසුගිය දවස්වල නාවලපිටිය ප්‍රදේශයේ රැස්වීම පැවැත්වුණු ඔබතුමන්ලගේ පක්ෂේ මහින්දානන්ද අලුත්ගමගේ මැතිතුමාගේ ප්‍රදේශය. හැබැයි එතකොට මේ ඔබතුමන්ලගේ පක්ෂේ ප්‍රබලයෝ ජේෂ්ඨයෝ නායකයෝ දකින්න ලැබුණේ නැහැ. රැස්වීම වල නෑ නේද ගියේ?
නෑ මමත් ඒ රැස්වීමේ කතාවකුත් කරානේ. ඇයි ඔබ එහෙම කියන්නේ මේ
I spoke at the event. I attended that event as the General Secretary of the party.
ගියා ඊට අමතරව අපේ පක්ෂයේ
අපේ මහින්ද මහත්තයා ගියේ නෑ නේද?
නෑ මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ ජනාධිපතිතුමා අපේ පක්ෂේ නායක.
Mahinda Rajapaksa is the leader of the party and we would not bring him for meetings like this. He attends meetings at a high level, so we do not bring him for smaller meetings in electorates.
ඒකට ගෙන යන්නේ නැහැ.
The UNP Balamandala meeting in Rathgama was attended by the chairman of the party, Vajirabe Vardhana. I have no doubt that everyone would unite because there is no alternative. When the nation is helpless and if an alternative exists, it would be presented to Parliament. In the absence of such, if one assumes there is an alternative, the people are aware that one does not exist. The people must act with responsibility. The Anuradhapura district convention of the Jatika Jana Balawegya took place with party leader Anurakumara Disanayaka in attendance. Parliament prepares legislation. A person was convicted by the High Court for soliciting bribes. He was fined 25 million rupees and ordered to pay 2 billion rupees as compensation. A surety was placed for 4 years. He is the minister.
There is a woman who is not a citizen of this country who holds a ministerial position. So can such a government and parliament instruct the people to be law-abiding? If this country needs to be uplifted, we need a country where the law is equal to all. We can do that.
The trial over the murders of parliamentarian Amarakirti Attukorala and his security officer in Nitambua on the 9th of May 2022 began in the presence of the Gampa High Court trial at bar on Monday.
The trial at bar appointed to examine the case filed over murders of MP Amarakirti Attukorala and his security officer consists of Justices Sahan Mapa Bandara, D.A. Ruwan Pathirana and Rashmi Singapuli. Indictments were served on 37 suspects when the case was called up on Monday. The case will be called up again on the 7th of July and bail applications on behalf of the suspects can be submitted on that day.
According to the indictment, there are 41 defendants. 2 of them had passed away. Several did not turn up in court. Indictments were served on the accused and applications for bail were submitted. The case was postponed to the 7th of July. The Citizens Movement Against Fraud, Corruption and Waste filed a complaint with the CID on Monday, seeking an investigation on the allegation that the Aragalaya or the struggle was funded from overseas. According to Sunday's Divaina newspaper, before the struggle commenced, dollars were funneled to 8 organizations. I filed a complaint with the Financial Crimes Investigation Division. The question here is what organizations received the dollars from overseas ahead of the Aragalaya. The innocent people did not funnel money to drive away Godabe Rajapaksa. This is a conspiracy who funneled money to distort the expectations of innocent people and direct the country towards the needs of non-governmental organizations. The newspaper also revealed that $1.6 billion was funneled from one organization to 10 NGOs in the country. What have they done? In addition, the newspaper notes that around 40 YouTubers linked to the organization engaged in tasks assigned to them by a diplomatic mission in the country. The people have a right to know about this. The people who engaged in the struggle have a right to know about this. This is in a leading newspaper. If the newspaper is correct, punishments need to be imposed. Aragalaya activist Damita Beratna expressed her views regarding this.
I wasn't given any money. After coming to the Aragalaya, I lost the money I had. Now you see my time is wasted. This is what I got from joining the Aragalaya. I'll tell you one thing, if we are thieves, we would have never joined hands with the Aragalaya. If you look at my Facebook, you will see many people who helped and supported the Aragalaya. Everyone who donated at least a water bottle have their names on my Facebook. Every party supported the Aragalaya. If so, inquire into all the money that was received in every way possible. Don't inquire how the Aragalaya was funded. Inquire how these thieves destroyed the country.
News First with the people.
A warrant was issued for the arrest of former Minister Vimal Veeravansha for failing to appear in court for a legal matter on Monday.
The case filed for staging a protest obstructing the main road opposite the UN compound in Colombo and for disrupting public order and vehicular movement on the day former United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Prince Zaid Rad Al Hussein visited Sri Lanka in 2016 was taken up in the presence of Colombo Chief Magistrate Prasanna De Alvis on Monday. Vimal Veeravansha, who was named as the first suspect in the case, did not appear in court. Veerakumara Disanayaka, another suspect in the case, also did not appear in court on Monday and he produced a medical report to the court via an attorney. The other suspects in the case, Mohammad Musammil, Jayanta Samaravira, Roger Senaviratna and P.S.Siri Vijayanayaka appeared in court on Monday. The Colombo Chief Magistrate noted that suspects taking turns to not appear whenever the case is called up would lead to a situation where the case could never be examined. The Chief Magistrate announced in open court that if suspects continue to evade court, they would also be placed in remand custody in order to examine the matter.
Acting Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinga, speaking to reporters on Monday, said that the government has not made a final decision regarding the domestic debt optimization program.
මේ වෙනකොට දේශීය ණය ප්‍රශස්තකරණය තුළ අවසානාත්මක තීන්දුවකට රජය මේ වෙනතෙක් ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. ඒකට හේතුව මේ ඊටාම සංවේදී කාරණා.
No final decision has been made yet on the domestic debt optimization program. However, as government, we always approach sensitive issues responsibly. President Ranil Wickremesinghe also addressed the matter of domestic debt optimization in Parliament. The Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance have provided clarifications on their stance. Our focus is on finding solutions for optimizing the banking and financial system of our country without negatively impacting stability, which is crucial. Therefore, it is vital that we refrain from making statements that create doubts regarding this optimization, as it helps stability in our financial market. We must all act responsibly in this regard. Following the President's visit to France, we anticipate gaining a better understanding of these issues, particularly concerning the restructuring of foreign debt.
මේ සියල්ල පිළිබඳ ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ ප්‍රංශ සංචාරයෙන් පස්සේ විශේෂයෙන්ම විදේශීය ණය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගතකරණය පිළිබඳව වඩා හොඳ අවබෝධයක් අපිට ළඟා කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි.
Indian-made Scorpion-class submarine INS Vagir reached Colombo on Monday afternoon.
The INS Vagir, a submarine of the Indian Navy, arrived at the port of Colombo on a formal visit. The visiting submarine was welcomed by the Sri Lankan Navy in precision of naval traditions. INS Vagir is a 67.5-meter-long submarine with a crew of 60, and it is commanded by Commander Divakar S. The crew of INS Vagir and personnel from the Sri Lankan Navy will be taking part in a yoga event at the Western Naval Command on the occasion to commemorate the 9th edition of the International Day of Yoga under the theme of Global Ocean Ring. The Indian High Commission in Colombo said that Indian naval submarine Vagir, which is the latest indigenous Kalvari-class submarine of the Indian Navy, is on an operational visit. Concluding the official visit, INS Vagir will depart the island on the 22nd of June 2023. Pakistan naval ship Tipu Sultan, a Type 054 AP frigate, arrived at the port of Colombo on a formal visit on the 18th of June 2023. She was commissioned at Hudong Zonghua Shipyard, Shanghai, China on the 10th of May 2023. PNS Tipu Sultan is named after the ruler of the Kingdom of Mysore, Sultan Fateh Ali Sahab Tipu, who reigned from 1782 to 1799. PNS Tipu Sultan is a 134.1-meter-long warship which is manned by a crew of 168. During the ship's stay, the crew will take part in several programs organized by the Sri Lankan Navy with a view to promoting cooperation and goodwill between the two navies. They are also expected to visit some of the tourist attractions in the country. Concluding her official visit, PNS Tipu Sultan will depart the island on the 20th of June, and she is expected to engage in a passage exercise with a Sri Lankan Navy ship off Colombo.
The Sri Lanka Banks Association has called for parliamentary action to improve the management of troubled borrowers, especially small and medium-sized enterprises.
The Sri Lanka Banks Association has urged policymakers to engage with commercial banks to ensure a comprehensive and well-coordinated approach to alleviating the stress felt by the industrialists in loan default. The association, which represents all licensed banks in Sri Lanka, said in a statement that the unusually high number of debt recovery actions within the first 4 months of 2023 is due to an accumulation of legal actions that was suspended as per the general moratorium granted by the CBSL since COVID in the first quarter of 2020 and to the tourism industry since the April 2019 attacks, where banks had to desist from debt recovery action or parate execution. In this context, the SLBS said a worthy initiative for parliamentary attention would be to improve management of troubled debt or borrowers, to develop an effective insolvency regime, to save distressed firms when possible through robust restructuring frameworks, or alternatively to facilitate the exit of non-viable firms as efficiently as possible in order to reallocate productive assets.
In the meantime, the World Bank is set to approve $700 million for Sri Lanka next week.
Reuters said the World Bank is likely to approve $700 million in budgetary and welfare support for Sri Lanka at its next board meeting on the 28th of June, the biggest funding tranche for the crisis-hit island nation since an IMF deal in March. Reuters said that of the proposed World Bank funding, $500 million will be for budgetary support and is likely to come in two tranches of $250 million each. It added that the first tranche is likely to be dispersed immediately after board approval, with the next possibly in October, as the bank watches the progress of Sri Lanka's debt restructuring and the first review of the IMF program due in September. The remaining $200 million will be earmarked for programs to assist the poor, whose numbers have doubled to 25% of the population since the onset of the Indian Ocean nation's worst economic crisis early last year.
St. Peter's College, Colombo recently held its Festival of Culture and Technology.
Artistry, a talent platform, was created by the English, Sinhala and Tamil literary associations of St. Peter's College to mark the centenary of the alma mater. The Festival of Culture and Technology was organized to felicitate the winners of the competition. Reverend Father Rohitha Rodrigo, the rector of St. Peter's College, Colombo, commented on the different talents of students.
Because, my dear children, it is important that God has given all of us special, different talents. None of us are equal. Not everyone will get 3 years, not everyone will get 9 years, but you have different other talents that you can achieve the targets you have in your mind. And that's why this world is so beautiful. If you all have the same talent, we would be like robots. But when we have different talents, it's totally different. It's a different world. And my dear children, make sure every talent that you have got is equally important, which sometimes we don't understand. Why we have something like this today is that I would like to see every one of you watch and appreciate these talents.
The Centenary Festival of Culture and Technology took place at the College Quadrangle.
The LOLC Divi Savya program that aims to support the education of Sri Lankan students continued today in the Kotmale Education Zone in the Nuwara Eliya district.
The LOLC Divi Savya program gifts school books and stationery equipment to the most impoverished students in the country, ensuring a brighter future for them. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. School books and stationery equipment were distributed among students from the Glen Lodge Tamil Vidyalaya, Al Hidya Muslim Primary Vidyalaya, Ravanagoda Primary Vidyalaya and the Sri Malyadeva Vidyalaya located in the Kotmale Education Zone. School books and stationery equipment were also distributed from the Mahavalisaya Primary Vidyalaya, Gankevala Primary Vidyalaya, Malhava Primary Vidyalaya and Choice Tamil Primary Vidyalaya. Moreover, school books and stationery equipment were also distributed among students from the Tispane Primary Vidyalaya, Halgola Primary Vidyalaya, Nanoda Primary Vidyalaya and the Polvatra Muslim Vidyalaya. The LOLC Divi Savya program will continue to ensure a better future for all school children in Sri Lanka.
In some tragic news from overseas, more than 300 Pakistanis drowned when a trawler packed with about 750 people bound illegally for Europe sank off the coast of Greece on Wednesday, the 14th of June.
The tragedy comes at a time when Pakistan is undergoing enormous economic hardship and many are fleeing the country in any way they can. Pakistan has declared Monday as a national day of mourning, and Pakistan police have arrested 10 Pakistani members of a human smuggling ring believed to have been responsible for sending the doomed people to Europe. The United Nations International Organization for Migration said about 750 people were on board, of whom at least 500 people are missing. Greek authorities have not yet confirmed the death toll. The Greek Coast Guard has come under heavy criticism for failing to respond for many hours, despite distress calls from the trawler before it went down. Alarm Phone, an international hotline for migrants in distress in the Mediterranean Sea, has said it received a distress call 11 hours before the trawler sank and informed Greek authorities.
In your cricket news update, the 1996 World Cup champion Sri Lanka secured a comprehensive 175-run win over the UAE in their first match of the ICC Cricket World Cup qualifier.
Half-centuries by Sri Lanka's top 4 batsmen powered the 1996 World Cup champions to a dominating score of 355 for the loss of 6 wickets in the third match of the ICC Cricket World Cup qualifier. Pathum Nissanka and Dimut Karunaratne put on a 95-run first wicket stand, which ended with Karunaratne falling for 52. Nissanka partnered with Kusal Mendes to score 57, and Mendes partnered with Sadira Samaravikrama to become the top scorer for Sri Lanka with 78. Samaravikrama smashed 73, while Charit Asalanka and Vanidu Hasaranga crushed the UAE bowling attack in the latter stages to cruise past 350. Ali Nasir picked up 2 wickets for 44 runs for UAE, while Rohan Mustafa and Ayal Afzal Khan and Basil Hamid picked up a wicket each. The UAE got off to a solid start with a 36-run stand between Mohammad Wasim and Rohan Mustafa. However, the Sri Lankan bowling attack proved to be too strong as the UAE lost wickets at regular intervals. The UAE were eventually bowled out for 180 runs in 39 overs.
Got through it. The partners deciding.
And he's got his 5, and he's got his 50th one-day international wicket for Vanidu Hasaranga.
Vanidu Hasaranga picked up his maiden ODI fifer and 50 career ODI wickets, thanks to his brilliant bowling that bagged him 6 wickets for just 24 runs.
Big match against Hasaranga, 6 against the United Arab Emirates.
In the meantime, Oman stunned the cricket world with a resounding 5-wicket win over Ireland.
Batting first, Ireland got off to a strong start with a 51-run opening partnership between Andy McBride and Paul Stirling. After their dismissals and wickets falling at regular intervals, middle-order batsman George Dockrell took control of the Irish innings and guided them to 281 runs for the loss of 7 wickets. George Dockrell smashed an 89-ball 91 runs, while Harry Tector contributed with 51. Bilal Khan and Fayaz Butt picked up 2 wickets each for Oman. Chasing 282 runs to win, Oman reached the target. Despite a wobbly start, opener Kashyap Prajapati smashed 72 runs. Middle-order batsmen Zishan Makhzood and Aqib Elias smashed half-centuries in Oman's quest for a win in the ICC Cricket World Cup qualifier. Oman reached the target with 11 balls to spare, posting 285 runs for the loss of 5 wickets.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Well, to follow details of these stories and much more, you can log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk or follow us on our social media platforms. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the News First team.
And I'm Mariam Ganavijaya.
Good night.